I low-key got cooked today. I'm not even gonna hold you, right? So this was supposed to be what the trade was supposed to. I said it's supposed to so many times now. But yo, this is what the trade was supposed to look like. Obviously that's not what it looks like. Anyways, yeah, we had a little bit of ching chong ping pong bing bong ding dong all the way down into the stop loss, right? Like, yo, we literally just had this going on, and then we had like a straight like Olympic dive into like the freaking thing. Like, bro, literally went into the thing, went into the stop loss, right? But yeah, anyways, so this is what we were working with as well. Let me see. Okay, yeah, we were working with some of this news today. We had German weather people, and then we had S&P. That's for the U.S. dollar. We had whatever this guy is. Yeah, right. And we had some people selling houses, right? So let me just get into what the thought process was behind all this, right? Before I start this thing. Okay. So basically, here the thought process was this, right? So what I was looking at was we had this inverse gap, right? This inverse gap, they got re-inversed up here, right? And moving down here, we had this point right here, this point over here, that right here was rejected, and we had what I was looking at, right, would be like our order block and our sweep. So that's what I was really looking at, right? And then what I was looking was for some type of retracement, obviously back down into this. You can see that this was basically like an imbalance that could have been, well, actually, it looks like it was part of my entry point, but yeah, this was an imbalance that was, like the retracement point that I was looking for because we had this imbalance right inside this order block, and let me delete this so we don't get a ton of rectangles. But let's go down to the 15 minute, right, and we could see that on the 15 minute, okay, on the 15 minute, right, we also had like something similar. We had the retracement back down into this imbalance right here. I'm going to delete these rectangles first, just so we don't get a ton of rectangles all over the place. Because then low key looking at everything is like A's, right? Okay, so we have this imbalance right here on the 15 minute that we retraced back down into right here, and we respected that. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, we respected that, and this was essentially where I was more looking to get into my trade. Like this is what time? Like 10:30 ish. Yeah, like a little bit around 10:30. But anyways, right? Yeah, we had this imbalance right here that was like a retracement point that I was looking for, and on the 5 minute, that same imbalance is practically within that 15-minute imbalance. So we have like a more, I guess, specific range of where we're really aiming at. It was all pretty looking pretty good. Like we had like a imbalance fill right here, and then we had price reject the downside. Like what? How? Like 15 minutes straight. Yeah. So that's just something I was looking at. And once I entered my trade too, we had this imbalance right here that was inversed. So that only made it like better. Like when I was looking at this, right? And if we could find where we are. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, let's mark this last thing. Look, you have it up here. Okay. Now, in this 1 minute time frame as well, we had squiggly diggly, right? Imbalance. So we have like what, like a 1 hour, 15 minute, 5 minute, and 1 minute. But right now we have the 15, 5, and the 1 minute marked out imbalances. So it was a pretty solid imbalance. Like you could see, we had they pretty much all got filled, and well, actually the 1 minute, like look at this, like practically like inverse that crazy. But we had a little accumulation right there, and then it's kind of where I started getting my entry point. But let me just do one more thing while I get to that. So basically, at this point, right? So we're looking at this. I like the 5 minute because it just looks cleaner. But I do like to take my trades in the 1 minute, right? So yeah, so we had all this going on, right? We had the 15-minute imbalance, the 5 minute, and the 1 minute imbalances, right? Filled right here, rejected, upside, good, right? So that's basically what we wanted, and so it was really time to get in on this trade, and you know the entry point was on the 1 minute, like I was saying. There wasn't probably much need to do that, but who cares? Who cares, right? Okay. So now, what I was essentially trying to get as an ideal entry was an entry right about here. Right, we had this imbalance right down here. I was trying to get an entry here because we had this little zone of accumulation over here, and then when we broke out of it, I was trying to get down this imbalance right here, but I lucky got logged out. So yeah, I got logged out of my thing while I was trying to the trade. But it doesn't really matter, Either way, the trade didn't win. But that was essentially where I was trying to get in my trade. But I ended up getting filled at about, wherever this is, 0.081111, right? And we had stops set below this little area of accumulation. If we could mark this out again, location and delete it, right? Yeah, it stops a little bit below this area of accumulation right here. And then for the TP, we had set out the next hourly high. Go on this real quick. Press the arrow. Hurry up. Right? The little hourly high that was next up. Just because, we had this little area that I was looking at, like my sweep and my order block, accumulation upside, right? So that's what I was aiming for right here. This next high. And yeah, so once we entered onto this trade, it was looking pretty decent at first, and then we had all this accordion music getting played, and I guess someone dropped the accordion. They kind of gave up on the accordion, but yeah, so they kind of won today, and it kind of is related. I can't even talk, and it kind of is what it is. You win some, you lose some. It's just the way it goes, and yeah, you really just gotta stay disciplined, bro. Like honestly, like yeah, this is not something like you should get to. I didn't even know you can move this around. That's cool. But anyways, yeah, and I was looking at the 4 hour as well, and when I'm looking at this, right, because we already know like this has been bearish pretty much for I don't know, like a few days or whatever you want, like this, right? Like it's really just been bearish movement after this ginormous move up. And I was looking at this, and this is probably something we could have taken into account as well to develop the bias, and possibly could have developed a different bias. But you just got to look back at your losing trades to really learn from it. You can't just take a trade and then you win it and then you just leave it there and you're like, okay, I'm him, and then just expect to know what you're doing, because you might have just gotten lucky, bro. Like, to be honest, or you might know what you're doing, but it all depends. Like, do you look at your trades or not? You could lose, but you could have done what you're supposed to do. You could have lost because you don't know what you're doing. Like, you really got to go back and look at the trades so you could really see what you have to improve upon. Because like, if I didn't look back at this trade, right, I wasn't really gonna see that there was an imbalance here this whole time, right, on the 4 hour time frame, because we already saw we were in bearish order flow, right, and then there was this 4 hour imbalance that we retraced back into and kept dumping further. So that was something that I probably should have kept, like, in my sight, and I probably should have seen that, because this would have completely changed how I was viewing the day. Maybe I would have still went for bullish. I don't know. I can't relive it, but this is something I would have really taken into consideration. Like, oh well, let me see how this plays out, right? Because yeah, that is pretty much how that kept going. Just straight dumping after that again. So you really have to look at your trades, to be honest. You know, yeah, this was the trade for today, and it is what it is, bro. Like, there's no shame. There's no shame, bro. Yeah. So, um, yeah, with that, I'm low key out. Low key had to track me today. Low key kind of fire. But anyways, yeah, I'm about to go dive into my bed. Like this, dive to the stop loss, no cap. All right, yo, see ya.